Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this episode, we'll be setting up drop visual effects that will add to a player's stats once picked up by the player. This system will export particle data from the Niagara system to the player character, making our gameplay even more dynamic. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and dive right in. And before we actually get started, just a note, this video is being made to show the interaction of the particle with the player rather than focusing on the visual effects itself. I do have a couple better drop visual effect videos on my channel, so if you want a more visually appealing drop FX, go ahead and check out those, and then you can implement the system into that same effect. To start, let's go ahead. I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm going to call it just DropFX. Let's open that up. And then inside here, let's go ahead and start creating our Niagara system. I'm just going to start with the empty system. And let's name it this DropFX. And we'll open that up. So in here, we'll go and add an empty emitter. Don't have to worry about naming it. It's still going to be the only one in this system, but we'll name it drop particles. Inside of our properties, we are going to go ahead and check requires persistent IDs. So go ahead and mark that. Next, inside of the particle spawn, let's go ahead and do inside the particle update, let's do an emitter state. And the emitter state, we're going to do self and once. And you can mess around with these. I do like 5 loop duration for this one just to kind of help keep it alive a little bit. We'll also change some other things. But inside the update, let's also do a spawn burst. And the spawn burst, you can set this to a user parameter. For this video, I'm just going to set it to 20. But yeah, you can set it to a user parameter and set that inside of whatever character or enemy that this is going to be attached to. And maybe you want one enemy to only spawn 5 of these whenever it's defeated, or some might do 20 or 100, or same thing with treasure chest or whatever you use this for. It's pretty universal on this. So the next thing, let's go to our particle spawn. Let's do an initialize particle. I'm just going to do a really emissive like blue here. Nothing crazy. And let's keep these alive for a while. We'll start with 5 seconds. Again, you can set this to a user parameter if you want to kind of control it a little differently, or keep them alive a lot longer, whatever is useful for your project. Next, we'll go ahead and do a shape location. Don't really need to. This is more for visual stuff. I'm going to do something like a sphere with a 10 radius. And then let's do an add velocity. Go ahead and fix those issues. And let's change this to a random range vector. And for this, I kind of want it to fountain out. So I want to do like a negative 100s here, but I only want it going up. So positives on the Z, 100, 100, and we'll do like 500. Let's go ahead and on our render, we'll add a sprite so we can see our particles. And they are just kind of flying up. So for now, in our particle update, let's go ahead and do a particle state to make sure this dies off eventually. Let's do, we're just going to do some basic visual stuff here. Just to make them look a little more visually appealing, but we're not going to spend a lot of time in this. Let's do our gravity force. This one's important to get it to come back down. And I don't want it falling that quick. So I'm just going to do negative 500. Let's add a curl noise. And for this, do something like just 200, just simple stuff here. We are going to need collision. So go ahead and grab a collision. Then let's do a scale color. And on our alpha, I'm just going to do a float from curve and just have this get kind of transparent or invisible over time. So as it goes to die, it'll go down to 0. We'll do a light here as well. And this light, I'm just going to take the blue, like 200, nothing crazy. Let's also, in this, I didn't set, let's do a uniform, go to your initialize particle, and let's just set a uniform size. Doesn't really matter what we do, but I want to go to 10 for this. But again, you can make it kind of whatever you want. Maybe we'll go 15 so we can see them. Next things, let's go ahead. Now that we have our collision, this collision is going to be useful. That's how we're going to keep them from falling through the ground. There are ways, and this is, just some ideas you can use if these were something you wanted to spawn some sort of other particles from. You could always do a collision event where it'll export the position data and spawn another Niagara system, or however you want it to do it. But we're not going to worry about that in here. I also do want to add a point attraction force. This is what we're going to use to attract to the character. And on this, I'm just going to go 200, 200, 0.7. And the position to attract to, sorry, not that, the attractor position here, we're going to read from new user parameter. And I'm just going to rename this to actor location. Right now it's all attracting to the center, but once we get our character in here, we will attract to the character. The next thing we want to do is kill particles in volume. And the volume, we're going to leave the radius 100, but we want to drag our actor location into the volume origin. And I'm just going to leave those at 0 there for now, and you'll kind of see why, but you can change a lot of this stuff as needed. The next thing I want to do is we're going to export particle data to a blueprint. And in order for this to work, we need a callback handler. So over in your user parameters, let's go ahead and add a new one, and I'm going to add an object. And we're going to rename this. I want to name it BP callback handler. And now that we have this created, we can actually use that here. And this is what is going to call our data into our blueprint. And we'll set this, we're going to leave it at none for now. This will get set inside of our the blueprint that we're going to create. So that looks like it's going to be all that we need for this for now. Let me make sure we got everything we need. The actor location is what it's going to come to. Killing that. So in our export particle data, there's a few ways to do this. You can have, you can kind of go through and find all kinds of ways that we can tell this when to export. For this system, the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to constantly export this data. So it's just exporting this data the whole time, and we'll control when it gets read inside of the blueprints. So that's going to be it for the Niagara drop system or drop effects for now. So we'll close that down. Next thing, let's go ahead and create our blueprint. So blueprint, grab an actor, and I want to call this BP drop effects. Let's go ahead and open that up. And inside of here, I'm going to just add a Niagara system, and we're going to add those drop effects. So inside of our event graph, uh, off of your event begin play, let's go ahead and do a set timer by function name. We're just going to get this to spawn. So I'm going to set looping. We'll say it spawns particles every 5 seconds. And let's say spawn here. Now this function name, we're going to create this function in a custom event. And it does need to be spelled correctly. So make sure you check that spelling. So for spawn, all we want to do is grab the Niagara system. And we want to come down here and set active. Grab that. And we're going to say new active and reset. The next thing we need to do in order for our system to actually get the particle data, let's grab our Niagara system. And from here, we want to say set Niagara object, variable object. The object we're going to set this to is this blueprint. So we're going to just say self. And we need to get that variable name here. This does have to match the spelling. BP callback handler. And let's go ahead and open that up in here to make sure that it is this user parameter that we're grabbing. So one thing you can do is just copy that right there and come back into this and paste it. And should be good there. The next thing we want to do is we want to set the attractor. So this actor location, which is telling these particles what they're attracted to here, we need to set this inside of our system. So I'm going to grab an event tick. That way every tick, this is going to update and make sure it has the correct player location. Grab that Niagara system back out. And here we want to set Niagara variable, and it's going to be a vector 3. And what we want to set this to is our player character. So get player. This might be different for your game. So this is the way I'm doing it. So the player character that I'm controlling is what I want this attracted to. So I'm just going to grab this. From here, let's go ahead and get world location for that mesh. So what this will do right now, and we'll just attach this. I will add something, but I'll show you why I'm adding it. If I drag this out here and I grab my player, oh, so we need to set the variable name. And again, that variable name is actor location. So I'm just going to copy this, copy it this way, display name, and paste that in there. So now what you'll see is where these get attracted to is the feet of the player because it's at the bottom that it's attracted to. So what I'm going to do in here is kind of just do an add. We'll attach this here, and I'm just going to add 100 to this, which will take it up a little bit, about halfway to the character, to the middle of the character. So now they attract a little higher up. It just looks a little more natural this way. The next thing, let's go ahead and go back into here. Go to your, inside your DropFX, let's go to class settings, and into your interfaces, let's go to add an interface, and you'll be looking for Niagara Particle Callback Handler. And go ahead and add that. And then if you double click this, it'll give you what you're looking for. So now all the data for the particles are coming through here. So let's separate this out by doing a for each. So for each of these bits of data, and if we go ahead and split this pin struct, right now all we're going to do is print this data. So if we just say print string, and we can print any of these, but we'll print the position for now, and it'll just start printing. And the reason it's printing just all of it is because we have it set to export just constantly. So we're not exporting based on any collision or any kind of other condition, just sending it. So we're seeing that there. One thing that we want to do here to make this only print whenever it's within a certain distance of our character. So from here, we're going to take that position. Let's go ahead and break this for now. This is our character's position where it's being attracted to. So let's grab that. And let's do a distance vector. And we're going to take these two distances, or find the distance from these two vectors. And I'm just going to say if the distance between these is less than 100, that's when we're going to say this is true. So while this data is still being sent constantly, we're only going to use the bits of data whenever this is true. So whenever this is less than a certain distance away from our characters, or the attractor point where our character's middle section. And now if I come off here and say print, and let's go ahead and just print that again. And then we play this, we don't see any data until we go and grab stuff, and then we see data. So now that we're seeing data only whenever it contacts the player, and this is just one solution. There are multiple ways that you could achieve something like this. This may not be the most efficient solution for this, but it is the way that I'm doing it for this video, just to kind of show you some tricks around using particle data, like what you could do. But for the next thing that we want to do, let's come back out here. And let's go ahead and create a blueprint interface. And I'm going to call this a particle interface. And we'll just go ahead and open that up. Inside here, I'm just going to rename this function update stat, just to give it a name. Of something that we'll be able to recognize to use. I'm not going to add any inputs or outputs here. You can use interfaces like this to send data back and forth, which could be useful, and maybe that is what you want. Maybe different particles have different values, or whatever you want to send to the player. But for now, I'm just going to call this function just to let it know when it needs to send that information. And then let's go into the character you're going to use. For me, it's this blue third person character here. And inside of this, let's go to our class settings. We want to go to our interfaces, and we're going to add that particle interface that we created. And this gives us that update stat here. And we're going to double click this to grab our event out of it. And this is where you would create any kind of interactions that you want to happen. For me, let's go ahead and add, just so we can see this, I'm going to add a text, and I'm just going to call it text. And let's move this up to where we could see it above our player. The other thing I want to do is create a variable, and I want to call it HP. And just for making this easy to show, I'm going to do an integer. And inside this, let's get this. When we run this, we're going to add 1 to the HP, and we're going to set that HP. And just so we can see this, we'll pull this text out, and I'm going to say set text. And we're going to set it to this HP. So that is what we will be seeing. The next thing that we need to do is go back to your DropFX blueprint. And after we know that this is true, this is where you would do this after if you're not printing the string. But we basically want to get a reference to the player that you're using or that you're trying to grab that interface from. And from this, we're going to say update stat. And this only works with this player character because it will have this particle interface implemented. So you will need to make sure that whatever character you're using, for me it's a third person character, does have this particle interface or whatever you name it, and then this event stuff here. So that's what it's looking for. Go ahead and close that down. Go ahead and compile and save that. And then if we come in here and test, right now we see just the word text, and when we grab stuff, we start seeing it change and update. So if we go grab, get close enough, there's 39. And these are dying off pretty quick, so I'm kind of having to grab them before they go. And some of these are spawning right as they hit. So let's let it set for a second, and then we'll go grab a couple. And there you have it. Now you are using these particles to update your health or stats or whatever you want it to do. Lots of ways you could change this, make it useful. Again, this is just one way to implement something like this. There are tons of ways to make this happen. This is just kind of a quick and easy solution to getting particles to interact with your player. And that's going to do it for this video on how to integrate DropFX system that enhances player stats in Unreal Engine 5.3. I hope you found this guide helpful and that it inspires you to experiment with your own game mechanics. If you have any questions or any other topics you'd like me to cover, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all of our latest content. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.